Hello and welcome to a special presentation from In the Money Media. This is our look at the Grade One Belmont Oaks this weekend. And because we have some foreign participation, we're not just being PTF and JK here. We're going to bring in the secret weapon on the In the Money Media team, especially when we talk about anything international. She comes to us from her homestead here in England, where I am as well. She is Vanessa Ryle. Vanessa, what's going on?
Well, I'm in good form, but I thought I was in good form in my cozy little country cottage in England. And then I look at JK and I'm just like, no, I'm unable for it. I'm unable for it. It's too much and it's too cute and it's too much.
He's got to keep that sun. You know, he doesn't want to get the
No.
TV star doesn't want to get washed out over there. Explain to the viewers what is going on, Jonathan, who don't know what already.
This has nothing to do with the sun. This is more of a wet hair situation. I'm going to let everyone in behind the scenes a little bit here. This is what it's just a wet hair thing. So I had no choice but to go here with it. You know what I mean?
I like it. Yeah.
Rigatoni just showed up, so it's going to be really loud here for a couple of seconds.
No, we love rigatoni. If there aren't pet and or child interruptions, it's not a production of In the Money Media. Let's talk about the Belmont Oaks. Vanessa, this is why we've brought you here. I'll tell you what, we have a really interesting domestic contender in here in She Feels Pretty. Surely you remember her huge run at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. I would argue she was quite possibly the best that day. Parked wide the whole time, just going down half a length. That's a race that's produced really good form, most recently with the huge run from Porta Fortuna at Royal Ascot. She sets a pretty nice level of form for this race, most recently seen at the Hilltop on Preakness weekend, winning and being imperious in victory that day. So I'm pretty excited about her. I don't think any of the domestic fillies are going to beat her. But what about this international contingent, Vanessa? How good are they?
Okay, well, I think we can keep it pretty simple then. If you think nothing on your home soil is going to beat her, I don't think it's going to go the way of either of the three of the European runners. I don't like any of them. I'm just putting it out there. Do you want me to run through them? I mean, I started with a bold statement here, but basically
that is a very bold statement. Let's talk. I mean, who should we begin with?
Start with Appleby's horse. Let's start with Appleby's horse. Cinderella's Dream in here. Very interesting. Obviously, every time Charlie Appleby has a runner over there, we all sit up and take note. You know the drill by now. This horse was 7th in the 1,000 guineas at Newmarket. That's when you last saw her. She was only beaten 4 lengths, though. That form has stood up, obviously, with Porta Fortuna since coming out and winning the coronation. Form-wise, fine. But you watch that race back, not much about it suggests that stepping up from the mile to the 10 furlongs is what she wants. She travels really sweetly into the race. She's actually won the last off the bridle in a Guineas into the dip. Now, maybe she just didn't cope with the touch, a little bit of the undulations there. Maybe you could use that as an excuse. And who am I to argue with Charlie Appleby if he's sending one over to step her up in trip to the 10 furlongs for the first time? You do have to sit up and listen. But then you also have to go on what you've seen in a race. And I personally don't think she finished off as strongly as you would like to see her finish off for a horse that they're stepping up in trip. She spun around those 2 Maidan races listed Group 3 level at ridiculously short odds, literally 1 to 20 without the jockey stirrups at one stage. I mean, it was a joke of a race. It doesn't even count. It literally doesn't even count. So for me, she is a random one to be throwing in there for the Godolphin team. So that's her. So then you move on to the French filly, Fun with Flags for Jerome Reynier. This horse hasn't been seen since April. Again, turned over at pretty short odds that day. In a race where, again, you watch that Saint-Cloud Group 3, it was back. Like, she came there to win a race and she gets done by a horse who was very much in a similar position to her. She's since sold for an awful lot of money, and this race was flagged up very early as a race that they were going to come at with her. She's obviously stayed with Jerome Reynier with new connections now. She's got Group 1 entries over here, I should say. But I don't know. I've looked back at her form, and again, I'm just thinking we've only ever seen her on heavy or very heavy French ground. we know she will get the trip, that's for sure. But will the real test of Belmont and the actual going suit her? I don't know. I'm very sketchy on her as well. So then you roll on, Pete. Were you going to jump in there and argue my point? Are you arguing with me?
No, not argue. I was just going to chime in. The only thing I would say that gives me a little more positivity than you do about Fun with Flags is the fact that I do believe the plan from this US-based powerhouse ownership group is to keep her with Chad Brown after this race. And we know the Bloodstock team is sharp, and they've had a good eye over the years for ones that are going to adapt well to USA conditions. So if the name was Brown instead of Reynier in the PPs, this horse would probably be half the price that she's going to be. So I'd consider keeping her on side for USA Exotics, but I do agree, not the most likely winner.
And my notes on her finish with the most interesting thing about her is that she's in the race, if you see what I mean. Like, as in, on all known form that me and you and the public can see, it's not an obvious move. It's not an obvious shift, but people sharper, cleverer, and more rich than me have decided that it is an obvious shift.
More rich than you, Vanessa? Impossible.
Hey, come on now. You don't pay me enough. But so that was literally my last note on her for this race. Is the most interesting thing about her is that she's in this race. Then we roll on to Secret Satire, who is a bit of a conundrum, not going to lie. Over here for Andrew Balding, again, not somebody who you regularly see with runners over in America. He's having a good time of it over here at the moment. Frankie the Tory getting on board. JK will give us the lowdown on that, I am sure. So that is interesting, the Frankie the Tory booking. But in terms of her profile, she won the Musadora at very short odds. She then went to Epsom for the Oaks. She stepped up in trip. She pulled way too hard. Literally, you couldn't give her away in the market that day. Nobody fancied her. Everyone seemed to think she'd pull too hard, which she did, and she wouldn't handle the track, which she didn't. So put a line through that. She's going to drop back in trip. That's going to help her. I do think of all the European horses, she's the most likely horse to appreciate the track and the going. I think going, I presume there's going to be a decent pace on in this race, in which case that's going to help her drop the bridle. She's also got the benefit of Frankie the Tory in the saddle, which is going to be really big. And then she's for an owner breeder. So, I'd say they know full well they're not going to pick up Group 1 form over here in Europe, and they're chancing their arm to boost her pedigree page over in America instead. The key to her is going to be the gallop so that she can drop the bridle. That's going to be the key, and a bit of cover from Frankie and a bit of Frankie magic. If you ask me to pick one of the 3 European runners, it would probably be Secret Satire.
I hear you. We've seen York in the past be a key pointer for horses that are going to succeed here, a combination of just the class of racing that happens there, but also the left-handed bend and the way the straight plays out. I could absolutely see that one as another one being involved in the finish. And at these morning line prices, one I would certainly want on sides and as an exacta partner with the likely favorite. She Feels Pretty. JK, we're going to bring you in. It seems like I've convinced Vanessa to side with She Feels Pretty. I feel pretty strongly about this one. Can we make it a chorus, my friend?
I think so. Look, I think it's been a long time coming for the U.S. to kind of catch up to a certain extent when it pertains to turf racing versus the Europeans. And I think She Feels Pretty, a Caraconti with a mare that's had some production from turf runners. I think a sane person can argue that she was best in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf, and then she came back and ran extremely well. What more do you want? I think she might be the best turf filly we have in the country. So, and I have no problem singling her, while others will be using some of the Europeans that they just can't help but be mesmerized by when it comes to betting on the turf.
I think the key question with She Feels Pretty And JK, I'll throw this back to you. The distance, is it possible this is too far for her? Or is this a case where we trust that as good as she's looked in her races, as well as she's shaped, as great of a job as Cherie DeVaux has done the last couple of years with these turf horses, do we just trust that she's going to be able to get this trip? That's my one remaining question, and the reason I wouldn't want to take too short of a number on her.
I am one of those people that I don't guess that a horse can't do something. They have to show me they can't do it. So ask me Saturday afternoon or evening, and then we can make decisions based on that. But talent is the thing that means the most to me. If a horse is talented, they got to prove me wrong everywhere else.
Great stuff. For Vanessa, for JK, this is our video for the Grade One Belmont Oaks. Make sure you subscribe to our In the Money Media YouTube channel to get all the content we've got coming down the pipe.